Solve the system of linear equations using a graphing tool. So when you see graphing tool, you want to think of something like a graphing calculator or an online resource to help us graph these two lines without having to do it by hand. Now, graphing tools such like a graphing calculator is the first thing that comes to mind. And here's an example of one. We have a TI-84 Plus Silver Edition. So if you have one at home, try to follow along. But I'll show you what buttons to push in order to get the solution to the system. So this system, we have y equals 4x plus 6, but the second equation is x plus 2y equals 3. A graphing calculator, you can only enter equations in slope-intercept form. So the second equation, we're going to have to rewrite and solve for y. So we'll subtract x from both sides. So 2y equals negative x plus 3. And we'll divide by 2, everything by 2. So y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3 over 2. Now, good thing we're using a graphing tool because that would be very hard to plot by hand. So the first thing we do is turn it on. And we go to the y equals button to enter our two equations. The first equation is y equals 4x plus 6. So I'm going to type in 4x plus 6. And scroll down to the second equation to now type in negative 1/2 x plus 3 over 2. So I'll do negative, and I'll use parentheses for my fraction. So 1/2 would be parentheses 1 divided by 2 parentheses x plus parentheses 3 divided by 2 parentheses. Now that I've typed in my two equations, I'm going to hit graph in order to see my system. So you can see the two lines on the screen and we can see where they intersect, but we need the calculator to give us that exact point. So we can hit second trace to bring us to the calculate menu. And if we look, number 5 says intersect. So you can scroll down to 5 or you can hit the number 5 and enter. Now, first curve wants us to be on one of the lines, which we are, so we can hit enter. The second curve makes sure our cursor's on the second line, which we are, so we can hit enter. And guess we want to use our right or left arrows to move right where we think the intersection point is. So I'm going to say about there and hit enter. So now we can see on the screen it says intersection x equals negative 1 and y equals 2. So that makes that intersecting point negative 1, 2. And looking at our answer choices, our solution would then be A. So using the graphing tool, we were able to find that point, and then that's our solution. But what if you don't have a graphing calculator? What if you only have the internet at home, which most of us do? And if you do have access to the internet, then you have access to a website called Desmos.com. So this is what Desmos.com looks like, /calculator. And if you go to that website, this lets you look at and graph systems of equations and find their solution also. So in the first box, you want to type in the first equation. The first equation was y equals 4x plus 6. And then you want to click in the next box. Now this you can type into slope-intercept form, or even the original equation was x plus 2y equals 3. So that's kind of an advantage over the graphing calculator. You don't have to be in slope-intercept form. And if I click in the graphs area, you can see the system. And if I click on the point and I hover, I can see that point of intersection is negative 1, 2. It agrees with what the graphing calculator said that point of intersection is. So whether you use the graphing calculator or Desmos, the solution is still going to be negative 1, 2, which is answer choice A.